Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
Und ich bin Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Last week, some of you let me know passionately that you didn't want to hear an opening monologue for a few weeks. One viewer made it very clear that she did not want to hear anything I had to say and she was just here for the news. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to apologize to all of you if the free content that Matt and I and our team of editors toil over every week isn't exactly the content you want us to deliver. There will be no monologue this week. Instead, I will simply give you a list of things that I randomly think about. 1. If you drive in the left lane at the same speed that the car next to you in the middle lane is driving, you're an actual Nazi and vampire, and I want to drive a stake through your heart. This is especially true if you justify it by saying, well, I was going the speed limit. F you. 2. People that buy pre-made tomato sauce really need to reevaluate their lives. No matter how hard your life is, it's never so bad that you can't just make your own sauce. Pre-made sauce is garbage. Get your shit together. The only exception to this rule is Carfagna's sauce, especially their vodka sauce. 3. If you're bitching about relationships on social media, I just want you to know that I'm judging the shit out of you. Social media isn't for private stuff. It's for dog pictures, it's for food pictures, it's for selfies, it's for BNN. No one cares about your problems, and I just want you to know that if you're posting about it in some melodramatic way, you're probably the psycho in the relationship, and it was probably all your fault. 4. Stop making cakes that look like hands and dogs and babies and then cutting them in half. You're freaking me out. And 5. Our show, our rules. We'll monologue whenever we damn well feel like it. Hey Matt, you want a monologue?
No, but I could if I wanted to.
But you don't right now?
Not right now.
Okay, but you could if you wanted to.
Yes, I could, but I don't want to. Not right now. The pandemic has spurred on scientific research lately in regards to a COVID-19 vaccine. The idea of a fast-tracked vaccine has been met with mixed feelings. On the one hand, you have people who want to see a vaccine introduced so we can beat this thing and get back to a normal life. On the other hand, you have the people who aren't thrilled about the thought of a hastily prepared vaccine that doesn't have the data and testing behind it. While the announced timelines have varied, most medical researchers have insisted that we'll see a vaccine by at least the end of the year. Some have even said it could be earlier. The Trump administration has invested in multiple companies, most notably Johnson & Johnson, to accelerate their research. A vaccine generally has to go through 4 phases of research, 3 before it's released to the public. Phase 2 is generally when a small group of human volunteers test the vaccine after phase 1, which is lab testing and animals. Phase 3, for that matter, is a much larger human testing group. Researchers have fielded complaints in regards to speeding up the process, saying that they aren't cutting corners in critical areas, but it's more about combining phases 1 and 2. The critical safety checks, they say, have remained the same. Phase 4 is less of a test and more of an examination on the effectiveness of the vaccine once it's released to the public. Many other countries are also in a race for the vaccine. There's very little doubt on whether or not a vaccine can be found. The sticking point is how safe and effective the first version's gonna be.
Russian hackers made their way in the news again this week when they targeted companies that are trying to find a vaccine for COVID-19. No crisis has occurred as all of the companies involved stated that their research has not been stolen or affected by these hacks. The UK's National Cybersecurity Center said that these attacks were almost certainly attacks from Russia. Naturally, the Kremlin denied this. They were like, I don't know nothing! But you know, with a Russian accent. And in Russian. The reality is that no one can plausibly deny that the Russians are trying to steal everyone's secrets all the time. Hell, every country is involved in a little cyber tussling. It's just an everyday affair. With regard to the COVID-19 vaccine, hopefully this is not an issue, and hopefully we share this information as soon as whoever finds it with the entire world. The problem, of course, is that governments and businesses want to leverage the solution so that they can avoid being leveraged themselves. Anyway, America has a bunch of keyboard warriors that want you to know that the Russians are a bunch of no-talent hacks.
Suburban Commandos Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the couple who confronted the massive protesters that arrived on their lawn in Wisconsin, are set to be indicted. Police arrived at their house this week with orders to confiscate the weapons that the couple used in the viral video that they're in. General opinion across the interwebs has been divided into two camps. One has praised the couple for defending their home and their right to do so. The other has condemned the couple for brandishing their weapons at the protesters. And this incident hasn't just saturated the general public, it's hitting the politicians too. This week, Senator Josh Hawley called for a civil rights investigation against prosecutor Kim Gardner. He's saying that Gardner is harassing the McCloskeys for exercising their civil rights. And reports have said that even Trump may weigh in. And while all this has been going on, the firearm proficient crowd has just been like, damn, those people have horrible firearm safety. His safety was off the whole time and he flagged his wife like 5 times in a row. Mark declined to comment on the rumor that Brooks Brothers was coming out with their own McCloskey-inspired line, War and Pleats.
And what is one of the most badass stories I've ever heard? A 6-year-old boy seeing a charging dog coming at his sister, placed himself in harm's way and took the brunt of the attack. Bridger Walker and his sister were playing at a friend's house that have 2 dogs. While the kids were playing, Bridger saw one of the dogs, a German Shepherd that's about 1 year old, charge his sister. He sprinted in the way and the dog bit Bridger right on the face. As the dog was holding on to Bridger's face, he screamed for his sister to run. When the dog finally let go, Bridger ran to his sister and then put her in a place in the yard where the dog really didn't have access. The bite he received required 90 stitches once he got to the hospital, and the doctors said the only time he cried was when they gave him the IV. I've seen grown men cower at the sight of a charging Jack Russell, and here we have a 6-year-old that was truly willing to give his life to save his sister. When asked why he made the decision knowing he could have been killed, Bridger once again decided to up the ante on the badassery, saying, "If someone was going to die, I thought it should be me." This kid is 6! According to his family, Bridger's wounds are healing nicely, and even though he can't smile widely yet, he's in very high spirits. His story has quickly gone viral and the outpouring of support has been spectacular. Even Captain America, Chris Evans, sent Bridger his personal Captain America shield, signed, along with a heartfelt note. This little man was clearly raised by bad who asked that any money that was donated in his honor be sent to either Mission 22 or the Wounded Warrior Project. Here's to hoping that we all deal with danger and hard times in the same way that Bridger did. Bridger, you are absolutely our hero.
A new stimulus package is being talked about, and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is expected to present it this week. As expected, the speculation is a shit show. Here's what's rumored to be on the Senate Vision Board. Second stimulus checks are at the forefront of the conversation, with proposals to either keep it at $1,200 as it previously was, or increase it to $2,000 monthly for anyone who earns $40K or under. People making $41,000 who have kids are like, are you f***ing kidding me? Now we know what you're thinking. What am I supposed to do with all this money? I can't even spend the last stimulus check fast enough without sleeping on uncomfortable piles of all this money. We don't have all the answers, but I don't know. Maybe buy some artwork, a second home, gamble it all away in the stock market. Or, I don't know, bury it in the wilderness and create some treasure maps and give it away to all the hipsters. Dealer's choice. State and local aid. Some states and cities, believe it or not, have struggled financially during the months and months of lockdown. So discussions of giving away anywhere from $30 to $430 billion have begun. The $600 unemployment boost. Will it stay, end, or be extended but reduced to $450? Liability protection for businesses that would be retroactive from 2019 and extend until 2024. So that's the upfronts that have reportedly been put into play. And now for the suggestions that have already been rumored to go nowhere. Payroll tax cuts. You. Student loan forgiveness. Maybe 10 grand for people deemed to be financially in dire straits. Or maybe you. Infrastructure plan. Really vague and also you. Travel bonuses for each individual person willing to take a vacation further than 50 miles from their home. Yeah, but most likely, you. Overall, the proposed stimulus plan has been in the range of $1.5 to $2 trillion on both the Republican and the Democratic side. I just hope there's enough for Ruth's Chris, Yeezy, and those poor struggling private airline companies.
GOYA is suddenly in the news. So I guess that's unexpected. This week, the CEO of GOYA, Robert Unanue, praised President Trump by calling him a builder and prayed for leadership for our country. For some reason, this caused the far left to lose its collective mind. There was an immediate call for Bob to rescind his remarks or risk being canceled. Bob was not intimidated, however, and said that he was not going to apologize or allow his speech to be suppressed. He also enumerated that he had made similar comments about President Obama, and that it was a big deal to be invited to the White House, and he was being respectful. Naturally, the frothing cancel cult took to their keyboards and demanded that GOYA be boycotted. Now, far be it for me to throw stones, but is it maybe a little too far to want to end a company because their CEO said something nice about the president at an event that he was invited to by the president, that he has attended in previous years with previous presidents, where he has also said nice things about those presidents? Anyway, in response to the infantile shrieking, Ivanka Trump decided she was going to help the situation by taking a picture of herself holding a can of GOYA beans and saying, "If it's GOYA, it has to be good." That action may have just violated a government ethics rule and probably didn't do anything good for GOYA. Naturally, the president, after assessing what Ivanka had done, decided to react appropriately by putting a load of GOYA products on his desk and basically saying the same thing, which absolutely violates a bunch of ethics laws. Former director of the Office of Government Ethics, Walter Schaub, had a conniption fit. When he finally regained consciousness, he decided to comment on the episode. He stated that this is likely a violation of the Hatch Act. The act is in place in order to prevent the federal government from influencing elections or from being partisan. He stated that these posts give the impression that if you support the president, you can get presidential marketing. He also then went a little further and said, no one in the current administration cares about ethics. That might be a bridge too far, and the only way to truly test it is with the world-renowned Billy Madison test.
I choose business ethics.
Now, I'm not saying his statements are right, and I'm not saying his statements are wrong. But it's 2020. We've got so many problems. Do you think anyone's going to care about an ethics violation right now? The moment you start thinking about ethics, that's when the murder hornets get you.
The European Space Agency's Solar Orbiter probe took the closest photograph of the sun to date. The photos came out way better than that picture of the black hole that we had last year. Remember when they just made that big orange circle with Microsoft Paint and thought we wouldn't notice? The probe was able to give a better representation of the sun's surface, even showing mini flares, which they're now calling campfires. They indicated that these small campfires could play a pivotal role in what's called coronal heating, whereby the sun's surface, which is called the corona, is 200 to 500 degrees hotter than the underlayers of the sun. While that's really great and I'm sure we're all fascinated, I would recommend staying away from anything named corona until at least 2021. Seeing as how our luck has gone with corona this year, I don't want to spend October battling the sun, especially with the alien invasion probably scheduled next month.
In super dumb news, Mike Pompeo tweeted a photo of his puppy showing his favorite toys off. Amidst his toys was a large stuffed Winnie the Pooh. Under normal circumstances, this would not be an issue, but Winnie the Pooh has struck a chord with the mainstream media outlets who will not let reality hinder a hot issue. The leader of China, Xi Jinping, has a complicated history with Pooh, and I'm not talking about number 2. For those of you that don't know, back in 2013, the Chinese leader was compared to the yellow, pantsless, honey-addicted bear. This was done in an attempt to avoid censorship from the Chinese government. Whether or not Pompeo meant to make a veiled reference to the Chinese government is unconfirmed. Nevertheless, the internet has made up his mind for him, and this was definitely a veiled attack on Xi Jinping. Twitter flooded his post with insults to the Chinese leader, as well as a bunch of poo posts. While mainland pro-communists in China would love to respond to these insults, they can't because they're censored. Ha 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 ha! Communism is dumb. You played yourself! Anything Winnie the Pooh related has been banned in the glorious world of don't insult the government or you die. When questioned, Pompeo's dog had this to say, which roughly translated means, yes, it was a diss on Xi Jinping and his tyrannical government's constant oppression of the proletariat.
Earlier this week, Twitter was hacked. The Twitter perps took over blue checkmarks and high-profile Twitter accounts like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates, and tweeted out that if you sent a certain amount of money to Bitcoin, they would send you back double. Sounds great, sign me up. Turns out it was a scam. God damn it. Twitter responded immediately by shutting down anyone with a blue checkmark. Our own Nick Palmisano was silenced. Silenced on Twitter.
No, man, I don't have a blue check mark.
What a loser. Afterwards, the world of Bitcoin tracking saw that over $100,000 was sent to this account. And I'm gonna make a bold statement and say that twice that amount is not going back to the people who put it there.
And finally, in Florida Man news, what will likely be hailed as the dumbest villain backstory of the year, a Florida man and his 3 sons sold a toxic substance as a cure to COVID-19 to tens of thousands of people. 62-year-old Mark Grennan and his 3 sons, with names that all weirdly started with J, sold a chemical solution of sodium chloride and water to a bunch of Florida residents. His claim? This was a miracle mineral solution. As a side note, this situation has serious potential for an 80s grunge band name. Mark and the Triple J's, Grennan's Boys, or just Toxic Sludge. The men sold what is essentially weapons-grade bleach under the guise of the Genesis 2 Church of Health and Healing. This was an entity they created just to avoid government regulation. But hey, I give them credit. If I was selling poisonous toxic sludge as snake oil during a global pandemic, I too would want to be far, far away from people that could stop me. The worst part about this situation is they sold tens of thousands of bottles nationwide. Tens of thousands! If people are buying bleach from a made-up church in South Florida, maybe we should just let this guy keep selling. I mean, that Darwin guy was onto something. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
Yo, soy Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive after 1 week of being in prison. So, if you had suicide in under a week, you are now out of the dead pool. As always, you can use code BNN at rangerup.com for 25% off. Have a great weekend.